So I just like to go before we start. I just want to give 5 tips for pre-snap, what you got to do before the play even starts. So number one, make sure you always get your film study in. You want to make sure you watch film on the receiver in front of you, the offense, so you got a good understanding of their plays. Some different things to look out for could be the down and distance. Is it first and 10, second and long, third and short? Think about what they're going to try to do. Pre-snap, what you got to do before. How much time is left? If they don't have a lot of time, they might be trying to get the ball deep. Are they trying to run the clock out? What part of the field are they at? Are they in the red zone? Are they, back up at their end? You think maybe they're going to punt it soon? Also, pay attention to the formation. Do they have a lot of big, fat guys in trying to block you, or do they bring another receiver in to throw the ball? Then tip number 2. So that was the first one. Look at alignment for yourself. Like, are you going to be inside the receiver or outside of him? If you're here, I'll just annotate a little bit. Hope this works nice. If the receiver is lined in far inside, you might take a outside shade just because there's a lot more like space out here that ground that you have to cover. So look at like inside or outside alignment. Also, how deep you're going to be is another thing to pay attention to in alignment. Some coverages will have you playing short. Some you'll line up further back. Depending on your position, you might be 15 yards off. So that's just all things that your coach will talk to you about, and you'll just get a feel for, maybe with how far the sticks are, or just what the certain play calls for. Then one more tip, which I really like to do. Some teams like to, flatline everything and keep everyone looking the same pre-snap. But what I found really helped me in high school, which a lot of you guys will probably find could help you, is if you move around. So like start further back, and then come up here, and then move back again, just to mess up the receiver. Because if you think about it, the receiver comes to the line with a plan in his mind. And if you're moving around, it just makes him second guess himself. So he doesn't really know what to do. Just 3 other quick tips. Have a nice athletic stance. What I like to do and what we like to do at Queens is touch the ground, so you know that you're staying low. And being low as a DB is half the battle right there. Have your eyes in the right spot. So look in for any motions, because especially in Canadian football, these guys will motion, he'll come there. They'll just do a bunch of different motions around there, and you guys got to talk about that as a whole group. Last one's communicate. So you want to talk before the play, say, hey, I'm high, I'm low, or just go over the coverages. And then, during the play also you want to talk, because, communication as a defensive back is pretty much the biggest thing in there. If you're on the same page, doesn't matter if you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. If you're all playing the same way, you're going to be able to cover whatever comes to you. So that's just 5 quick pre-snap tips, things to always be ready for before every play. So good to go into it now.
Awesome. And you can kind of see here, like some of the stuff that, Eric's talking about, you already see it developing as the receivers hit the line of scrimmage. You're going to have guys that change their depth on the back end. It might be based on game plans. You talk about watching film, like we're going to start with cover 1, right? All these guys are at different depths based on their their preparation. Right. So looking at the different depths guys are at, you kind of understand, hey, if this is more of like a big physical receiver who maybe doesn't run as well at the H, you see the Sam play that receiver a little bit tighter. Right. Whereas clearly, this Y can run because the halfback's playing further off. Right. You obviously have options at the corner here with these guys being on line of scrimmage that, they don't have that waggle that they can use to generate that speed. So you can, kind of play with that depth. Maybe that's more like disguising coverage, right? Like this looks maybe more like a zone contour, from the field corner. But obviously especially as a high school player, like I feel like you can really, if you understand where you need to get to, you can really play with the pre-snap stuff. And it's just hard for quarterbacks with the prep time. If you're able to disguise, if it's just you, right? Even if it's not the whole secondary, but just you as an impact player can kind of change the picture for sure.
Should we just to make it like basic for everyone, should we explain what the coverage is before then
yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. So if you want to drop cover 1 there, that'd be great.
Yeah, I got it. So cover 1, it's called, we'll make this basic. Cover 1 is a 1 because there's 1 guy deep. So cover 2, there's 2 guys deep, 3, 4, and so on. So number 1, you got the free safety here, and he's deep. So that's his area. Red looks like it's coming up good. So yeah, cover 1 man. is man coverage. So, everyone's going to be manned up. The corner will be on number 1. The halfback will be on number 2. And it looks like the Sam, in this case, strong side linebacker, will be on number 3. Then we got corner and half. So they're all covering. Then the one man deep. Then the linebackers in here will someone might be keying the running back in case the running back runs out. Then he'll cover him. But other than that, they might either blitz or just expand to help cover the area in here. We call that the hole player. Anything I missed?
No, that's good. I mean, I think one of the things as a defensive back is like understanding like where your help is too. And again, there's a lot of different ways to play this. And in high school, like everyone's going to be in a different situation depending on like what their coach wants. But you can see here the leverage is like you talked about playing outside leverage. This receiver is super tight, right? So this halfback's playing outside leverage, right? And some people play cover one with outside leverage almost not no matter what, but with even with a wider split because you like you said you have that whole player in the deep middle of the field, and you have one of these two linebackers to be able to help you out in the middle of the field as well. It looks like they're outside leverage here as well. Every coach is going to be different on that. But understanding, okay, what routes can this guy run from this spot? Well, basically he can go under, right? Or he's coming back out, whether it's at 4 or 10 or to the corner, right? Like he's not running a slant route from there. So you can really, as a DB, even though it's man coverage, like with the help from the linebacker and the safety, and you're the leverage that you choose. So if he's super tight, playing with outside leverage, if he's super wide, right, he's only got so much space to go. So even though you don't have any help out there, you have the sideline. And I think that's a point that can help out a lot of young DBs.
Exactly. Know where your help is, and from watching film, you know what you should expect. So if you got help inside of you, low and high, and the sideline, then it's good to line up high outside.
Absolutely. And you see a play out here, like again, like the guy runs the out route, right? From the tight split, because the DB's in outside leverage, like he's able to play that pretty efficiently, right? Even though it's away from his help. In terms of like playing, like you see kind of like this off man technique here to the field, like you see both these guys keyed in on the receiver. What's your kind of coaching points like in man in general? We're going to talk about cover 0 and cover 2 man. How does off man, like what we're seeing in this case, kind of differ from other forms of man coverage?
So, off man, the three main types of man coverage would be press. So you're up 1 yard off the line, Canadian football, and American on the line. So, you're making contact or just staying with the receiver right from the start. There's also catch man. So you usually line up around 3 to 5 yards and just wait for him to come to you, make contact with him, then keep running with him. Then off man is you see here when DBs line up usually around 7 to 9 yards, and off man really just gives you more time to read the receiver or look in and read the quarterback and just see what's going on there. So if it's a situation where you're expecting the ball to come out quick, sometimes catch man's better because you're challenging the receiver and just making it harder for him right away. But it can really depend on like your strengths as a DB, what you like doing better, or what you notice with the receiver. Because some guys, even just covering like one-on-one, you'll notice some receivers, lots of receivers don't like getting hands on them. So DBs like to like press them, but other guys are just, they're really physical at the line, but they're slow out of the breaks. So you got to know your receiver and understand your assignment from your coach to decide like which type of man to play.
Absolutely. And I think like that's, again, coming back to like the preparation piece is so key because it's all about how much you can help yourself pre-snap, right? And you see that play out here with the out route. And ultimately, like we were talking about before, like this inside linebacker is able to get all the way to the second receiver, right? And that's why you can kind of play outside leverage because if you get these in-breaking routes, so if this is a post route, right, we've got the inside help. If this becomes like the slant or dig that it does, now the linebacker is able to help on it. And we'll kind of see like how the DB's demeanor is going to change as we get into this next clip. Really, really similar coverage. Again, you talked about, okay, cover one. The key thing is you got that one vertical player. We still have that one vertical player, but you see a really different demeanor from the DBs in this clip. Why is it, when we're looking at, okay, now we're bringing a pressure, right? We're blitzing that whole player. How does that change, the man technique you're likely to see from the DBs?
So just let it play for just a sec until the linebacker blitzes. Yeah, so if you're blitzing the whole player, you know you're not going to have any help really in here. So you might want to take a bit slider of an inside shade because you're not going to have help in there anymore. And also, you're going to expect the ball to come out quick if you're sending additional pressure. So just be ready to read the receiver's first break and go off that. If you got a really good D line and they're going to get to the quarterback quick, it's probably not going to be like a double move and up here. So just like with the blitzes, with the pressure, be ready to react quick and stay inside shade because those are the fastest throws. If it's an out route, it's just going to take longer for the ball to get there and you'll have more time to make up any ground also.
Absolutely. And you see it here too, like even in like we talked about, okay, there's still, this guy's playing off man, right? Maybe that's partially disguise, partially matchup. But you really see the more press element in here. And you see these guys, instead of being outside leverage, right, and kind of turned in because they know they have that hole help, right? Now they're playing, maybe more what people think about man to man, where they're belt buckle to the receiver, and they're not, this guy is a true like safety.
Yeah,
as opposed to like a guy that's going to be aggressive and try and break on that, that dig route or that post route. Those DBs are playing much more like traditional man where, hey, you're by yourself and hopefully you get some help from the free player as opposed to counting on that help.
Mm-hmm. So with free safeties, normally like unless you want to help out one of the defenders more, can you just go back to the start when they're all lined up? Yeah, so normally what safeties would do is what's called a triangle read. So you got, and this will help you a lot in high school football. Like quarterbacks don't really understand it at that level, so you'll be able to get a lot of picks. Trust me with that. What they'll do is a triangle read. So the two most inside guys are your biggest vertical threats at the moment, like who's gonna get downfield close to you. So what you do is like read these two players at the same time. Maybe if he needs more help out, you like help him out more and key to that side. But as you see one player, if he doesn't run a vertical route, if he runs like an in, then you could start to, if he runs like this, you could start moving as a safety to this side a little bit because that's where the other guy's going to be. So I'm not sure if I explained it too good, but like with the triangle read, you're kind of just like moving with the receivers and covering the deeper one out of the two. If they're both running deep, then you just split the difference and stay off. But like a big thing that'll help you as safety is if you could eliminate reads quick, like if he runs under, then you just know that you got this guy to look out for mainly. And if they both do an under, this is a bit more advanced, then like this might be open behind them. So if you could see the reads quick, just understand who the vertical threats are, then because you're the deep guy, like who's going to be coming to you.
Absolutely. And I think like for most, like this is what most, I think high school players are being coached in terms of man coverage because you're not getting, you're not counting on your linebackers in coverage as much in high school football. So even if you're not blitzing, right, usually it's, hey, that guy's more of a run stuffer and like the DBs are covering and the linebackers are doing their best. Right. And you're not counting on, that middle of the field help from the backer. But I think this is a good example of, okay, you as a defensive back need to understand where your help is all the time and seeing like these are both cover one, right? So I think a lot of people think, oh, cover one guy's high, I know what that is. But again, as you talked about, like the coverages stay the same. Like I remember playing cover one when I was like 13 years old, right? But you get to university, you're still playing cover one, but the expectation for your understanding is so much higher, right? Yeah. The other key point that I thought you made there is between your pre-snap prep and then eliminating reads, most of the time you can take, okay, there's this big picture Canadian offense. People are moving all over the place. All these receivers off the line of scrimmage. By the time they hit the line of scrimmage, or at least 3 steps after, you can usually get it down to, okay, like 2 or 3 options, right? Like you were mentioning there, if you're this free safety, you're saying, okay, I'm going to help out this Sam linebacker. Well, he goes out at 5, right? Well, now that route's dead to me, right? Next, right? Okay, did this guy, maybe now you expand to the next 2 guys who could be coming down the seam or whatever. Or like you mentioned, if this guy goes under, okay, great. Now I can almost go double this other route. And I think that's the difference between picks and pass breakups is being able to like eliminate those routes immediately as opposed to like covering space and then breaking on the football, being able to get to where the ball is actually going.
Right. And then to get there even quicker, like after you kind of like what I like to do when I'm playing safety is I feel like I can do this well, but it might take a while to develop a skill, but like if you just look at the quarterback, sometimes you get a feel for like where the receivers are without actually like taking time to look at them. I'm not saying I recommend doing that, but where I'm going with that is that once you know where you're going to move with the receivers, make sure you take a look at the quarterback too, because oftentimes, like especially at younger ages, they're just going to look at where they want to throw it. So, once they take their hand off the ball, they tilt their arm up, or like they're just getting ready to throw. That's a perfect time to break on the ball and go get yourself some picks.
Absolutely. And this was just a different variation that I threw in because I thought it was interesting. Again, it's in that kind of cover one family. Here they've got the will linebacker out of the box. It's actually the will linebacker out of the box covering number 2 weak. So, I mean, in high school, maybe that's not super common, but ultimately it's in that family, and you're going to see the single high player end up high again. And now the boundary half is going to become that kind of robber in the middle of the field. So again, it just speaks to, hey, like, yes, there's versions of cover one, and cover one can be very different depending on which one you're playing. Again, here, it looks like they're playing more of that outside leverage, funneling the ball back into that hole player, trying to entice the quarterback, like you said, to, put the ball, theoretically, he's seeing this outside leverage. He's going great. Middle of the field's open, right? Like that last cover one, the middle of the field was open. Well, now there's somebody actually coming to rob that.
Right. And that's a big thing too. Like if you look at the guy's actual responsibility, like what he does in this play, like he just runs here, he moves off here. Like when you're covering guys, it's a bit different because you gotta like be running with them and everything. But especially for zone coverages, like everything you learn right now is gonna help you so much in the future. So especially like if you're a younger guy out there, or like if you're not, just keep learning, keep watching this video, because the more like you could just be in that position and make a play. Like whoever's watching this, imagine yourself, like ask, can you do this? Like just run a few steps this way. Like if you're in the right position, you know what's gonna come. Like you can just be a decent athlete and still make a lot of plays in Canadian football just by doing what's going on. So that's why they always say, like, once you get to university, it's a lot more mental than it is at previous levels. Like you get a bigger playbook, and like once you know what you got to do, like everything just becomes so much easier. So don't forget about the mental side of the game. That's why we're doing this.
And one of the biggest things I think for me is like the leverage piece. And the other reason I really like this clip is like if I pause it here, okay, all three of these guys are in outside leverage, right? Normally in if you're playing man coverage, it's like basketball. You want to stay between your guy and the bucket. Well, for football, it's you want to be between your guy and the quarterback. Right. So you don't want to give them that inside leverage usually in most man coverages. Well, here, because this is like you're playing cover one, but you're trusting you're going to have a hole player and a high help player. Well, now these two routes break in. That should be like worst case scenario man to man, right? What do you run against man? You run slants. Well, here you get kind of like this downfield dig. Now you got that robbed, right? If one of these was a post, or if one of these becomes a double move, okay, we got that covered. And you look at the two corners playing inside leverage, right? Well, because this guy's way out here, right? Like what route's he going to run out there? Nothing, right? 97% of the field is inside of him. He's coming back to that inside the field. If he runs vertical, and you actually see it on the bottom here, like this is a great example. And I don't know whether I didn't prep you on talking about press man, but this is a great example. You see the boundary corner, like just run this guy out of bounds.
Beautiful.
Right? Like what route are you throwing there? So again, like understanding, okay, cover one is one high. Why are they doing this video? Yeah, cool. But understanding like how leverage plays into that, and understanding how there are variations of cover one, you've got to understand what your team is actually running when they say cover one. Because these two man-to-man techniques could not be more different. Off man, outside leverage, open key versus press man, online scrimmage, inside leverage. All because they're recognizing where their help is and they understand the concept.
Mm-hmm. I'll give my biggest press tip right now, just because we're looking at it. And this is just like, I think it's really ignored in football at non-professional levels. The biggest thing you want to do is just get him off of his line. You can see the DB does a great job making contact other than bubbling him out. Receivers, quarterbacks, all they work on is timing. So if you mess that up, even if he gets open at the end, like he pushes him out of bounds here pretty much, so he's not going to catch it. But even if he gets open, you mess up the timing, it's just going to throw them off, and it's probably going to be incomplete. Don't just open up right away, get a hand on him, keep your feet moving to bubble the receiver out. That's just the best thing you could do in your press man.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've talked with a couple DB coaches that I really respect about this, and like I played O-line, so I couldn't have been farther from the defensive backfield as a player.
It's similar.
It is, and the big thing I always found, and it's funny you watch the NFL, it's a little bit different, but like in your pass set as an offensive lineman, you do not want to open your shoulders, right? Because as soon as we use the same term, open the gate,
Same thing.
right? And it's kind of like, to me, it's like, okay, you're putting all your chips down by playing press, and then you're trying to take the bet back. You know what I mean? When you open your hips, like you're saying, hey, I'm going to come up here and press you, and then if you open your hips, you lose all the value of actually making that move. Right? You're down there anyway. If you're going to do it, do it. So when you keep those shoulders square, same as a pass set for a tackle, if this guy, like you said, has to bubble, timing is shot, even if you don't land, like obviously it'd be great. And like I coach Godfrey Onyeka, who played boundary corner for us for a few years, who's in the CFL now. And I mean, he got his hands on some people, but even if you don't get your hands on people as well, your body position forces them out of the timing they want. Right. And again, you're inside leverage. So he's not going to go across your body. Right. If you just, like you said, you'd be a solid athlete with an understanding of the technique. If I have inside leverage, I keep inside leverage. Right. I'm going to force him now to the sideline. And then you see here, just to try and get by his hips because he doesn't open the gate. Now this guy's falling out of bounds. Right. It's a great point. And you talk about opening the hip or opening the gate. That's like the exact same coaching point, that we talk about the offensive line position.
Yeah, that was said beautifully with the betting analogy.
It's to me, it's like, and it's funny because like it's kind of similar O-line wise. It's like trying quick set a guy, right? Like if you're going to quick set a guy, then do it. If you're going to, or cut block guy, if you're going to cut block guy, do it, right? Like if you're going to, like you have confidence in the technique you're using, right? Which is what we all want our players to do, and as athletes, that's what we want to do.
And if you're like tall, like Godfrey, you said you coached him, or if you're shorter, like I am, like as long as you have your technique right, you could cover him.
Yeah, it's a much, I think, like you said, and obviously the waggle's tough. So pressing the guy off the line of scrimmage is a whole other deal. But in that situation, for sure. Good question in the chat. What do you guys think about playing press in the Canadian game where you have to give a yard? Like, are you still, and I know you play corner, like, are you still a proponent of that?
I'll take this. So I play corner half. My favorite position, I'll play more this is safety actually, but I'll definitely like this question. I've talked to a lot of different people about it, and I'm all for it. Even if you watch like the States mainly, they still give some space. I don't really know why, but I don't think giving a yard's like that big of a deal. It's like as long as you keep your eyes in the right spot on the receiver's hip, you keep your feet moving, so you keep him in front of you. Like if he moves a bit in, you take a little step in. So eyes, feet, and then you get your hands in the right spot. It's I don't see the problem with it. So it's really just all about your technique, and you can't just be like, you have to want to press them also. Like it's a mental thing. So if you're at a rival's camp and you're this close to the guy, or if you're playing Canadian football and you're 3 feet away from him, a yard, as long as you do the technique and you do the right things, like there's no reason why you can't get a good press in.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is like you have to have a purpose for it, right? Like if you're just pressing to press, like some guys obviously like that's your, like if that's what you do best, then it's a huge part of your game. But if you're say choosing like, am I going to use this or not, right? It's probably not like what you wake up every day doing really well. So like if you're choosing when to press or when not to, I think the biggest thing is just understanding like the matchup that you're in, right? So for me as an offensive lineman, I'm not going to short set fast guys, right? Or I'm not going to consistently short set fast guys for no reason. Right. Or if the protection's going away from me, I'm less likely to short set fast guys. Like you got to kind of understand, like, where's my help? Even the split, like if he gets in a tighter split, and again, I played far away from corner, but I've coached a bit of defense at the high school level, OPFL level. And when you get a guy with a tighter split, now he's got more of a two-way go, like he can run in and out breaking routes, a little bit more challenging. But if you got a guy that can do it as an offensive coordinator, I don't want them to, like, I want to throw layups to my best receiver, especially if it's the boundary corner. Right. Like it's hard. It's much harder to me if you're going to press the boundary corner. Like you got to find ways to help them sometimes, but that it's much harder if you just give up those layups as an offensive coordinator, like we're just going to take them. Right. So having it in your bag for sure is a good one.
Mm-hmm. And, something else to help, I talked about this a bit with your alignment, but what I find it helps with me with press also. And if you ever watch Cornerback Guru, I think he changed his name on YouTube because he got in trouble with the NFL, but he always talks about like deceiving the receivers because lots of guys line up. They're saying, okay, what's the receiver going to do? Then I'll react to it. But if you come with a plan, like that's how you're going to win your one reps. So if you start like inside, take a step outside just to mess up the receiver, maybe give like a fall shoe with one hand, stab with the other, buzz your feet, maybe like go and jam aggressively once, the other time like back off. So like have a lot of different skills that you could do to always be playing with the receiver and deceive him to help you out there. That's gonna help you win a lot of the battles.
For sure, 100%. I mean, talking about press man, we're getting into cover two man now. So just quick, we've already talked about a lot of the man coverage fundamental stuff. When we talk about two man, or some people call it combo, what's that look like, and why do defenses use two man?
So cover two man, as you could guess, is because there's two guys deep, and it's really protecting against the pass a lot. So you got everyone's manned up here again, 1 2 1 2. Then the two guys are off here. It looks like they got a 4-man rush with it's probably gonna be a hole player here, but cover two man or either hole or king the running back. We just got two guys deep, and it's really just more help against the pass. The problem with cover one is that on the outsides it's really wide and open because the free safety can only cover so much ground in the middle. In cover two, it's a little bit of a problem if these guys get too spread out and leave the middle of the field open. But there's ways to fix that with just like your alignment and making sure like these guys are doing a good job covering them. So cover two, just more on passing downs. You'll see it on second and long. Is that what it is right now? Yeah, it looks like second and long right now. That's
second and 10.
You'll normally see cover two then the most.
Biggest challenge is you only have 5 guys in the box, obviously. And I think people hear cover two and they think like, oh, it's like American like zone cover two. Very, very different, right? Like it's like cover one, but you only have half the field. So these guys are still playing hard man. You'll see like a lot of these guys hop into trail because you both have that vertical help, right? So these receivers are really worried about making sure, hey, don't let them throw, anything underneath. You want to be underneath your player, and there's a lot of different ways to do it in terms of leverage, but again, making sure you understand, hey, what routes can this guy run from this position?
And this is when you see more of the catch man, which we talked about a bit before. You could see the DBs are lining up closer, and they're probably gonna try to get some hands on and then run with the guys. If they end up in trail like this, that's fine. Like you're not beat, because if the receiver runs deep, he's gonna run right to your help. So it's all about knowing where your help is and changing your coverage based on that.
Absolutely. This is super underused coverage. If there's high school DCs watching, this is like my go-to on second.
My favorite one. If you have good like linebackers and D-line to take control of the box, like I love cover two.
Yeah. We talk about the other versions of man. Obviously, everyone's playbook is going to have some level of cover zero. How does that differ? And in terms of technique, like what are you more so doing now as a DB?
So the biggest thing with cover zero is that you're sending a lot of pressure. So you're not going to have anyone off to help you really. Whoever's not covering a man is blitzing the quarterback, which means that the ball is going to come out quick. So don't expect like double moves, expect single moves, because the ball is going to come quick. Like receivers won't have time to do all the stuff they love to do in one-on-ones. Like as soon as he makes a move, like the ball's probably coming out. So what I notice lots of teams do is just wait off their DBs, either like slowly backpedal or just keep their feet hot and ready to break off the receiver. With cover zero, most teams line up inside shade a bit more, just because like there's no help anywhere in the middle, and what you notice is everyone's just covered down. So corner half. I guess he's on 3. He's pretty far inside here.
I think it's the free safety. Yeah.
Oh, he's creeping down, it looks like. Yeah, then somebody picks up the running back if he releases.
Yeah, and the big thing is just obviously now, like you're not, like we talked about leverage being based on where your help is. Well, now you don't have any help, right? So you got to be able to play inside leverage. You got to be able to play the vertical route all by yourself, even from the slot. So you're going to see a way different demeanor, like in terms of this style of man versus the last clip we showed, kind of